What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the GamerDad channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So right now I'm in a really interesting spot because I've been going around and taking down some of those side bosses or optional bosses in Elden Ring that have given me a lot of issues. In fact, if you saw my last video, I was talking about the hardest boss in Elden Ring being you yourself and actually talking about the parry system. In other words, I've realized something, and one of my audience members mentioned this and said, it seemed the parry system was a little inconsistent. Somebody even advised that I go get the buckler shield so I can use the buckler parry that's with it, and I can't seem to find it. I think you're supposed to do it before that little guy at the gate of Stormvale disappears or whatever, but he's gone and I really didn't want to deal with that. So I went to find these twin Crucible knights, which I had to go through this crazy cave, and I remember walking into it and walking out going, I'm not dealing with these chariots. But today I went in for it and I decided that I was going to go and encounter them. And it was actually quite fun. To be very honest, I didn't necessarily think I was going to do well. Now I went in with the mind that I was going to try my best to parry so I can get as much damage as I can and try to get, some sort of an upper hand. But that did not seem to work out well. For some reason, that inconsistency in the parry system was getting me again. And I know the golden parry is an option, but I forgot to equip the darn thing before I made my way to where this boss battle was happening. And I said to myself, man, I'm already this far in and I don't feel like going back, because I actually explored a huge portion of the cave and got some really nice goodies. It was quite fun. And so I decided I was going to go with my trusted and best friend. Behold the Bloodhound step. This particular Ash of War literally carried me from the beginning of Elden Ring all the way through the end. In fact, if I made a challenge for myself, like all these challenges that we're seeing, can I beat Elden Ring without Bloodhound step? That would probably be the title of my video, because this Ash of War has really saved me from a lot of trouble and time wasting. Now I understand that, for some people they might say, oh, this is just making everything cheap, but I think the Ash of War itself is not necessarily something that is cheap. I think it's a tool given to you, and there are, in my opinion, sacrifices that you have to make before you use the Ash of War. Number one, it's not 100% foolproof. Enemy NPCs, bosses, or whatever it is, can track you even when you try to get out of the way. Because for those of you who know, most of these Souls-like enemies are programmed with the capability of punishing you when you try to run away. That's something that this game has with it, and many times they'll punish you even if you're using the Bloodhound step. But if you're actually having some issues trying to beat these knights, I think there are a few things that you can kind of take into consideration, because they do have openings, and these are the openings that you have to exploit. I have beaten some other versions of them in different scenarios without parrying. I remember beating the one there in that hidden city. I beat the other one that had the spear. I didn't beat the guy with the shield. That Crucible Knight with the shield, I just basically stood on top of like a ledge and I cheesed him. That's just the truth. I didn't have time to deal with that fool. But the other one without the shield, I was able to basically deal with him very easily. I dispatched of him quite quickly without any problems. It wasn't until I started dealing with the guy with the shield, the Crucible Knight variant anyways with the shield, that I decided, man, I might want to go learn the parrying system. So I went in there with all truthfulness trying to parry, and that just didn't work. So like I said, I switched out to my good friend and we were able to find those openings that are actually there and deal with him. Now I also was in a position where I summoned the Mimic, my Mimic tier, and that was just to cause a distraction. So one thing about these two knights is, if you don't want the fight to take 40 minutes, and I'm being facetious when I say 40 minutes, you really need to focus on, I think, the Crucible Knight with the spear, or Dorvis or so is the one with the shield. I don't care whose name it is. In fact, screw both of them. I would be happy to mismatch their names if it can offend them somewhere, because they're quite annoying. I'm just being petty. And so you have to focus the one with the spear first and take them out, and then you can kind of start dealing with the one with the sword and the shield. I think that's Ordovis or whatever his name is. And so my Mimic was in hopes that I could get Ordovis's attention and deal with the guy with the spear, because his movesets are slower, and that's why I think many people can dispatch of him quite quickly. Ordovis, or Shield and Sword guy, whatever his name is quite the monster. Because of his movesets, his really long tail, you really have to be prepared to maybe fake and bait that tail out. You really have to have some really interesting movesets to be able to dodge some of his heavy attacks or his dash attacks where he really leaves himself open. And one thing you have to notice is this is a boss that has a lot of poise. He's not going to easily be taken down without you having to trade with him. So once you get a hit in, you might want to take off because he has that little ground slam that can basically stun you in a sense. So maybe you might want to go in with a lot more poise, or maybe with a lot more whatever it is your gear is. But I would say if you play very smart, you're pretty much going to have the upper hand. So the fight took me about 3 tries, and I remember getting a comment here, somebody saying, why don't you try fighting both of them and see how that looks? And I was like, yeah, honestly, having fought a lot of the other bosses and beaten the game, I think there was always a way to beat both of them without too much of the stress. Now, granted, I am quite leveled up. Now, if I wasn't leveled up as much as I am right now, then I see where that difficulty spike can come in. So if you're actually wanting to do that, I can do basically a quick speed run on how to, run around the cave and how to make your way through to the boss. If you guys want some of that, probably put it together so people can kind of have some kind of a chart to just, help them walk through all of the different obstacles with this fight. So thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Peace out.